I quote Stephen Merchant. He says, travel broadens the mind.
Absolutely.
And I agree with that.
Well, it definitely does broaden the mind in that there's no way you can't be exposed to different cultures, particularly on cruise ships, I find, because while you're still kind of, in America or whatever, when you're cruising, you are with your cabin stewards and your servers, and all the crew people are generally people who are from, far reaches of Southeast Asia and Eastern Europe and all that sort of stuff. And so I know, I'm following John Heald, who's a Carnival spokesperson on Facebook, and there's a lot of people that talk about, there's still some closed-minded people, but there are a lot of people now that talk about, Malaysian cultures and Indonesian cultures and stuff like that, that I guarantee you 20 years ago, before they started cruising, they would never have thought about, let alone you.
Yeah, so. and even in the guests, you encounter so many people. When we went on the Sunshine in 2015 with my mom, I remember that she had been waiting in line at Lido or somewhere else, and so she got in, or to go see one of the Vegas style shows on the ship, and she got into chatting with somebody from Russia.
Yeah. And
in her life, she'd never spoken to a Russian person before. And she was so excited to tell us about this Russian woman, that she made friends with a Russian woman. It was, and I mean, just seeing her eyes light up and her being all excited about that, it's fantastic. And so it exposes you to that sort of thing, to see that, people from cultures that you might not organically encounter, it adds a third dimension sometimes, to see that they're real people. They're not caricatures. It's not Boris and Natasha, running around. Not all Russians are that. I'm not saying that there aren't some out there, possibly, but it gets you a different perspective on that, and it deepens sort of that understanding and appreciation, and that's really quite fantastic. How many times have you been sitting in MDR or on Lido and you hear the question, "How long is your contract?" Have you heard that one a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear it all the time, and so. There's a couple ways you could choose to react to that. You could be like, "Oh God, they're asking this stupid question again." But I kind of like listening in on that a little bit, eavesdropping a little bit, because it's always about. They talk, it's a 6 to 9 month contract. I used to be on this ship. I'm not sure, and then they start saying, how long do you get to spend with your family? And that's when they start talking more about their culture back home, wherever they're from, and sort of what it's like to work on the cruise ship versus that. Do they send money home? What's it like being gone from your family for an extended period, but then you're home for 3 months with no work at all?
Yeah.
And so it's I actually kind of like that repeated question, and I have yet to see the staff be frustrated with anyone who asks that. There was maybe they're just being polite,
perhaps,
but I mean people like kind of talking about themselves, and the fact that they're acknowledging that this is a human being rather than just a walking thing coming to clean up your table. And so I think that that's sort of appreciated, and so those are just some of the many, many benefits of travel, in particular on a Carnival cruise, for example. You get such diverse people.